Innovate. Enable. Standard Chartered presents India on the Move, the 21st Century Agenda.
Standard Chartered Bank organized the second edition of its annual conference, Banking on Digitization, in Mumbai recently. Experts, thought leaders and clients from across industries came together to discuss digitization, disruptive technologies, innovations and their impact on the banking sector in India.
We are in the midst of a digital revolution led by a slew of projects being run by the government around technology and digitization, ably supported by a willing population and industry. Key initiatives around Aadhaar, GST and digital payments have created a significant push towards better adoption of digital and the fast transforming way we do our business. We are also in the midst of an exciting and challenging period in the Indian economy, where we'll see a huge shift in the overall infrastructure and landscape of the country. Within the first year of demonetization, we've seen the number of taxpayers in the individual segment increase, the number of digital transactions multiply, and new technologies, applications, and instruments emerge. Our government, banks, fintech companies have been innovating and changing the way India spends its money. At Standard Chartered, our endeavor is to be at the forefront of this cutting-edge technology and be the digital bank of choice. We are invested in this ambition and are continuously looking to enhance our digital capabilities. We were the first foreign bank to launch UPI in 2016 and have seen a substantial growth in volume since then. On the retail side, we've launched UPI, Bharat QR Code, Bharat Bill Payment, and many other initiatives. We've also made strategic investments in Ripple and Swift to facilitate cross-border transfers for corporate clients. Our new age corporate banking platform, Straight to Bank Next Gen, is being built around API infrastructure. We've introduced paperless imports and document preparation services using technology. We're also looking at leveraging further new age technologies such as Internet of Things and blockchain to develop new and better supply chain financing solutions. We are committed to proactively offering innovative banking solutions to meet and exceed the evolving business needs of our clients.
I want to walk you through this acronym JAM. The J is, of course, the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which was launched about 3 years ago. About 300 million bank accounts have been opened so far. And this number is interesting because we have about 300 million households in the country. And the idea was to be able to take banking to each and every household. We think we are at a point where almost 90% of households have access to a bank account today. And then we have Aadhaar. Aadhaar went from a launch in 2010 to currently about almost 1.2 billion people have an Aadhaar number. So that was the A of JAM. And then the M is the mobile phones, and not just in terms of mobile phones. We already have over 1 billion SIM cards. But because many people have 2 SIMs, multi-SIM phones, we think the market penetration is around 650 to 700 million people. This number is interesting because 750 million is also the expected number of adults in the country. And so if every adult has one smartphone, or almost 1:1, then I think we are going to get to a very interesting point in the future. And whatever pace of innovation we have seen so far can only grow much stronger. The last piece is that we are really heading into this world of data, where we are going to be very data rich, and we want to make sure that from a privacy perspective, we take this into account. So the broad thinking, and this is now of all of the systems so far, this is the only thing that is at a proposal stage, where we are trying to figure out how we can make sure that people are in control of their own data. And so the proposal is that we have a consent layer which allows a user to control what data about them is shared for what purpose with whom. And that really brings us to the India stack, because this gives us a layer of presence-less, where I can open a bank account without being at a bank. I can do paperless transactions. I can do digital signatures I can exchange an ID document digitally. We can do cashless transactions. And we do it all with consent of the user. And then on top of this, we build many applications, whether it is for credit or for investments or skilling, many different use cases, financial and non-financial. are going to be sitting on top of this. And this is the evolution over the years of the stack, starting in 2010 with the launch of Aadhaar, and then ending with UPI and the consent piece. This is really, earlier in this year, February, Raul Paul, and we never knew who this gentleman was till he tweeted about India Stack. And he compared it to what railroad did to the UK or what the national highway system has done for the US. Clearly, we are at this point where India is moving fast. It's not going to wait for anybody. It's not going to, we're going to build technology, move ahead, solve the needs of our people and move on. So that's really what I wanted to present today. Thank you.
Standard Chartered presents India on the Move, the 21st Century Agenda.
Diverse panels comprising of leaders from specific industries address different challenges of transforming and conducting business in a more digitized economy. CFOs and treasurers from multinationals discuss the changing landscape of payments in India and the transformation to digital payments through initiatives like UPI led by the government. India's fast and ambitious transformation to digital, a year after demonetization, was also on the agenda of the panelists who exchanged views on the sustainability and the impact of new technologies like blockchain and Internet of Things on documentary trade, treasury management and supply chain, among other things.
Let me start with what is happening on various areas and what is India really driving, not just from the government side, but overall from an industry side. So maybe let me start with you, Ramanan, to talk about what you're seeing in the insurance industry and broadly in some of the other industries as well.
The idea is that digital is just not limiting to certain parts of the value system. Okay, so we were discussing that, in lot of industries and schemes, you have parts of the system which are digitized. Okay, you still have paper pre or post. Okay, so in the case of insurance, the paperwork starts after the issuance process. You get a physical document which you have to preserve to make a claim. If you want to make any changes or servicing done, you still have a paper-based process. The idea of the insurance repository is to change the post-issuance process so that it can be completely digital.
Dinesh, from your side, GST is one of the things which is maybe not initially part of the India stack, but some of the things which will help in terms of digitization. It will make the India stack real. So maybe how does this change the whole digitization journey from a company perspective? Is it really driving more digitization, or is it just simplifying the tax aspect?
Across-state mapping of transactions and 5 to 6 billion transactions matched every month is phenomenal. And yes, we've had our share of hiccups in the beginning. Any such rollout of this scale, I don't think anybody expected it to stabilize overnight. So I'm sure we will go through the motions for the next 6 to 12 months. But this is again fundamentally impacting the fact that you can't dodge the system, you can't game the system. You need to make sure the wave is going to get bigger and bigger against you as you go along. You need to make sure that you're doing the right side of transactions, you're reporting every transaction correctly, your supply chain is fully aligned, and so on and so forth. So to me, this change of GST reporting is likely to, in 12 to 18 months of time, have a very strong impact on behavioral patterns of how transactions happen in the economy. And then that's for the benefit of everybody, because if everybody starts following the signals, then you don't have accidents, right?
Vishal from NPS, maybe it will be good if you can paint a picture landscape of what is coming.
If I take a step back, maybe 2014, if we start, I think we started this with our RuPay initiatives, where we started our RuPay card. And I think we started fundamentally with 3 principles, saying, how do I reduce the cost of a transaction? How do I make it interoperable? And how do I get the ecosystem in place for everything? I think that's the 3 principles on which we started on every product. And I think from a digitization perspective, we have seen a lot of initiatives in the last 2 years. with UPI, BBPS, Beam getting launched. And I think every aspect where we have ventured is how do I make it at a scale, take everyone into confidence. And if I take the example of NETC, we talked about 375 toll plazas on the system, but we also have enabled interoperable system where we have 10 issuers and equally 10 acquirers of various banks who can now interoperable. So I can use any of this tag from any of these banks and get on to any of the acquirers. So that's been the foundation principles on which we are trying to scale up our platforms.
Where do you see companies should be able to leverage and should, more importantly, leverage the India stack?
So if we take eKYC, so eKYC is really about customer onboarding.
Yeah.
And if you're able to do customer onboarding in a very authentic way with 100% certainty at a very low cost, so suddenly your customer onboarding equation changes and you're able to now go out and expand the market. A classic example of it is actually what you're seeing in the investment space. So where SEBI allowed eKYC based account opening. Now previously, prior to that, many of my friends who were in this business would say that the cost of acquiring a customer and onboarding them was 1,000 to 1,500 rupees.
Yep.
And you're only allowed 0.5% commission on distribution of mutual funds. So you would only acquire a customer who was willing to spend 200 to 300,000 rupees to purchase mutual funds the next year because they would otherwise churn anyway. So you needed to recover the 1,000 rupees in the first year. And so you only went after the top tier of the country. Now because with eKYC that cost has come down to under 100 rupees, it suddenly means your target market becomes much, much bigger. Your transaction size goes down, your volumes go up, and you have financial inclusion. So because now by doing this API-based thing, you suddenly change the economics of the situation.
Standard Chartered presents India on the Move, the 21st Century Agenda.
Maybe I'll ask Alan, what does API mean for a treasurer, a treasury operation? How does the technology around connectivity will really help treasurers and cash managers manage liquidity, reduce potentially their headcounts, manage their operation?
But thinking about today's environment, a lot of treasury now has started to automate all these things, and they need to get information, right? So digitization is really changing the way of treasury operation, and what they really need is the real-time stuff, right? The real-time in regard to their banking transaction, in regarding to their bank balance position, in regarding to even external information, right? And then API is become a technology where we can make a lot of information available real-time, and it's also shifting from reactive to proactive.
Really welcome your views on, first, what exactly is AI? How do you guys use it in your company? And how do you foresee this having an actual impact to businesses?
We going digital is something that everyone understands. I think banks understand it better than any other industry because the asset was always digital. And I think they are facing the most pressure. And so you have all these banking apps like mobile apps and web apps. And so you have customers now being able to interact with the banks online or digitally. But at the operations side, you still have desk-based semi-manual operations. And what is not understood enough is that apart from the fact that a customer wants a digital interaction, he wants, in this modern world, decisions to be really, really fast. He wants real-time decisions. And that is where AI adds value, as an example in operations. That it is able to make these desk-based operations into small AI bots, and hence, if the consumer onboards digitally, within real time you can also get a decision made which today was taking large streams of operations, a lot of desk-based processes. So in some ways what AI is allowing you to do is give true digital experience to your customer, but without compromising your processes. So without being able to say, okay, I'll do OTP and I'll go online, or I'll use social media, log in and go online. No, you're doing whatever you are doing, but instead of that check being performed manually, is now being performed using technology.
Joydeep, is this spread, is that what you're hearing from your clients? Is it reflective of the questions you're getting from your clients or the industry?
It's not coincidental that all of these have bubbled up now. These are, some of them are technologies, some of them are interfaces, some of them are platforms, some of those are environments, some of those are mediums, and all of these are sort of moving up now because they can't work without the other. It's absolutely absurd to imagine a world where, you're having, say, APIs, everybody's offering APIs, and there's nobody to, use, a filter or an AI onto it, right? It will be useless, really. So I think time has come for us to look at the digitized workplace.
If you look at API, if you look at cryptocurrency, and if you look at blockchain, that's Ripple. So how do you guys use those three technology to essentially come up with something of value as opposed to just technology for the sake of it?
What is happening is, and that's the reason you see things going up and down, customers are getting to a certain level of maturity to essentially say which use cases are viable, for example. What is going to happen is if you look at something like Tally, which we are all familiar with, or Zero, right? Now, in an accounting system itself, today what we do is we say, I need to pay Naveen his salary, and then we go to the banking system and make the payment, right? Both are disjointed, and then we do bank reconciliation. But what is going to happen is once you pay that I want to pay Naveen his salary, you will be able to initiate a payment from Tally itself onto directly to the bank. The bank pays out, confirms, and the reconciliation gets done right there itself, right? So you're eliminating a very big step. Now you do it through blockchain, you do it through API, but what the customer is looking for is, I'm looking for this great use case which essentially eliminates what's there in the middle, the reconciliation layer and hundreds of accountants all over India, who need to reconcile this. This essentially goes away and my life becomes easy, right? So this will be an example, a use case, what the customer wants to solve for, and the companies that solve for it, including intermediaries, are the ones who are going to get the customer's business. So that's something is already happening, and I think people are starting to get beyond the tag names or the labels, as I would call them.
So I know there was a lot of questions that you guys have raised on the app. What I suggest is we close for now. I will thank each of the panelists.
The name Banking on Digitization itself is symbolic of what we think is going to drive banking for the next many years to come. Digitization and everything around it, and everything that is part of the ecosystem of digitization. Now, what makes India unique is the fact that we have a very strong government push, in addition to, of course, the normal driving factors of mobility, technological revolution, client needs. We have a very, very strong government push in the form of changes made by the government, and also an NPCI kind of organization, which has dramatically changed the landscape of payments in India.
I think it's a great event organized by Standard Chartered Bank, getting participants from the government, the corporates, the industry folks to come together to ideate. During the session, I was able to pick up some ideas that I can go back and implement in my company, which is related to FASTag, which is basically means that any vehicle that is going to get manufactured in the country is going to come with a FASTag. How do we latch onto it and make sure the insurance can be issued using the FASTag? I think the future of digital India is very bright. A lot of things which has happened in India are now getting replicated elsewhere in the world. So take UPI as an example. This was something which happened last year in India, and now we see that happening in Singapore. It is called Pay Now, and it is evolving there. We see that happening in Thailand. It's called PromptPay, and again something which is evolving. So a lot of things which is happened in India is being picked up in elsewhere in the world. But with this whole move towards Aadhaar-based payments as an example, it will be a big thing. In many ways, it will also help companies solve real problems which people are facing by making things more digital.
This event is creating an environment for people to communicate and exchange ideas. Right? There are companies from different industry, there are companies also from the same industry. they had opportunity using this environment to exchange idea, and that's what Standard Chartered Bank is hoping to contribute to this community.
Standard Chartered presents India on the Move, the 21st Century Agenda.